has shocked a lot of us. The 7 family members who were killed and buried at their house in Vlakfontein, Johannesburg, will be buried this coming Sunday. Bodies of the family, which are aged between 2 and 50 years old, were discovered by police this week. The suspect, who rented a room in the family's yard, is still at large. Police say although he is known as Sibusiso Khoza, he used 2 other names on his social media accounts and is in fact a Zimbabwean national.
We are investigating.
When you hold them accountable, they're going to say you're making noise, they're going to say you're xenophobic, they're going to say a whole lot of things. But for how long do you allow such to happen? For how long do you sit down in silence and allow such to happen? For how long do you... Yo, guys, it's not enough kicking a few restaurant employees. They're taking more than just a few rands. They're taking more than just a few jobs. They're taking lives, they're taking opportunities, they're taking futures, they're taking identities. When is enough enough?
7 cases of murder. This is after bodies of 3 adult females and 4 children were found or were discovered in this house yesterday. We received information from the member of the community that there was stench or smell that was coming from this house. They wanted us to come and investigate. Indeed, when we came to this house, we summoned all the role players, including our forensic experts. In one of the bedrooms, we discovered that there was a pile of sand. Then we started digging. Underneath that sand is then that we found 4 bodies, which was 1 adult female and 3 kids. We then proceeded to the back room in the same yard. In that room again, there was this pile of sand, and we dug again. In that underneath that sand again, we found 3 bodies now, which was 2 adult female and 1 kid. Yes, we've started with our investigation, preliminary investigation. Our forensic experts were here. The bodies have been taken to mortuary, and they've been taken for postmortem to establish how were they killed or murdered.
What do we know at this stage around suspects? We know that 1 person has been taken in for questioning. We know that there's another one on the loose that we understand was in the home all this time but managed to evade police. What do we know at this stage around those details?
We got information that there are 2 adult males that were staying in this house. When we came yesterday, we found one of them, so we've taken him in for questioning. But we were told that there's another one who has been here all the time, and he was here yesterday before we came, but he has since disappeared. That is the other one that we are looking for. We understand that his name is Sibusiso Ernest Khoza. So we are appealing to the community that if there's somebody who knows this Ernest Khoza, Sibusiso Ernest Khoza, please let them come forward and give us information, because he is the possible suspect in this case.
What else do we know? We know that families have now been handed back the home. Your forensic team has finalized whatever investigations they needed to do. We're seeing sand being carried out through wheelbarrows from inside the house to outside. People are wearing masks and gloves and, uniforms, just some protective gear.
Yes, we've done with our forensic investigation. Now we've handed the house back to the community. So the community, they are busy cleaning whatever is still in the house, because they say they need to go back to their house.
Can you just paint us a picture of what was it like being in there? Was there a lot of blood, or was it a lot of just little graves within the house?
Yes, as I'm saying, that it was that pile of sand. So the bodies were underneath that sand. So that will form part of the investigation as to how were they killed.
A lot of work has been done at the home since the last time we spoke. We were at the second scene where there were shallow graves. We understand that it was the bodies of 2 young females and 2 young children. We've been asked by the family to move away from that area. Quite a bad stench, as you can imagine. We now understand that those bodies could have been there for more than a week, going into the 2nd week. So you can imagine the kind of stench that the community was confronted to, it was that very stench that had propelled communities here to contact police, and that is what police met here, this grisly scene. So there's quite a lot of activity behind me, soiled carpets being pulled out of that particular room, a lot of blankets. We understand that the 2 young children were wrapped in one of those blankets. I know you asked me earlier around weapons that could have been used in this particular crime. I spoke to police and they said, that will form part of an investigation. Communities, however, say that they did see police walking out with an axe. But all that, a lot of questions, as I said, a lot for police to piece together. But a short while ago, there was a lot of activity here from communities. We understand that the passport of Sibusiso Ernest Khoza, who had said earlier he was South African, and now it confirms he's a Zimbabwean national, was found in the house from the belongings that family had been taken out of the home. And initially we thought that police had nabbed him, but that reports are now not true. I'm joined by one of the community social workers here, Mandisa Muruge, just to talk to us about some of the efforts. You arrived here yesterday, and you're quite good friends with one of the dads whose children died and whose child died, and also partners died in this particular tragedy. He contacted you yesterday. What did he say to you, Mandisa?
No, he was hysterical when he called me, and then he told me that the mother of his child was killed, and also the child was also killed. So I came here, and then we contacted the police. The police came and they took away the bodies. Actually, it's the bodies of 4 children and 3 adults, So it's 7 people who were killed here, and they were buried inside the house.
It's been quite difficult for you. I know that you knew one of the women quite well, and what we want to get a sense of, what was she like? One of the ladies who you knew, just the person who she was.
She was a hard worker. She was a teacher. She was 27 years old. She was still a young woman, and she was very motivated. You see, she wanted to go far with her life. She just bought a house in Lihaye, so she was looking forward to having good life, only to be cut short.
So it's been quite difficult for you and other community members who have been helping here. Just briefly, what's in that home and at the 2 scenes where those shallow bodies were found?
There's the stench, first of all. It seems as if the bodies were in that house for more than a week, because they were starting to decompose. So the stench and soil, there was a lot of soil that the suspect threw soil on top of the bodies to try and conceal the deed, you see. So we had to remove the soil, and the blankets were full of blood and, bodily fluids that were stinking badly. Even now, we are trying to clean the house. We're using everything that can help us to disinfect the house. It's bad. It's quite bad.
But for a person who is so active in this community, again points to gender violence against women and children, quite tragic. What is the community going through with what has happened here?
It's traumatic, actually. The community in this area is very traumatic by this. It's the first time that we experience something like this. It's gruesome. Yeah.
That was Mandisa Maruge giving us just a sense of the work that has been done here. They received the house, I think, after 12:30 today. And you can imagine, Palesa, how traumatized this very quiet community is, who is now, throwing their weight behind assisting the family in this tragic turn of events that we understand could have happened at the 19th, around about the 10th or the 19th of this month. Back to you in studio.
Just before we let you go once again, now you say that a passport belonging to a man that's sought by police, now Ernest Khoza, was found in the house. So can we say that the man was also staying in that house?
As police had said in that earlier interview, the police captain who we had spoken to, he had said that that gentleman was here, but had left shortly before police had come to take over the scene. Yes, he was. We understand that police are phrasing it in this way, Palesa, that he could possibly answer questions to the chain of events. What we understand could have been as far as the 10th of November. We spoke to one of the caregivers where the children went to creche to, and she was quite emotional when she arrived at the scene, and she said to us that she was given an instruction round about the 10th of November, I apologize, the 10th of October, Palesa, that one of the children, the 2-year-old minor, was not going to return to creche, and the child would only return at month end. So she was quite shocked when she arrived here today to find out that one of the children that had been attending that daycare in the community was one of the victims here. But to answer your question, we know that police are saying he could please give a lot of information to what had happened here, because we do understand that he was at the scene at this particular home shortly before police conducted their forensic investigations, Palesa, and no one knows now where he is. His passport was recovered. He allegedly told authorities that he is South African, but from the passport now it reflects that he is Zimbabwean. So the community of the opinion that he has fled to Beitbridge border post to evade any questioning. How true that is, Palesa, can't confirm at this stage. We also did supply you with some Facebook pictures of Sibusiso there with some of the deceased. In one of the Facebook social media posts, he had written there that having a very good day, or celebrating just this past Saturday, and what the community says, those pictures were taken from inside this home, which is behind me. Them really wanting him to be brought in for questioning so that he could give a lot of answers that they need. Palesa.
All right, Gillian, let's leave it at that. Thank you so much there to our reporter, Gillian Pillay, reporting live from a house where 7 bodies were found, of course, in Vlakfontein, south of Johannesburg. We'll get in touch again with our reporter there.
Well, our SABC News reporter Gillian Pillay is covering this story, and she's in studio to tell us a little bit more. Gillian, welcome. Good to have you in here. I don't even want to begin to imagine. I mean, you've covered a lot of stories, but walking into that house must have been one of the most horrific experiences you've been through in your career.
When we arrived there on Monday, I don't think we knew what had awaited us. I don't think we even thought about bodies and what we were going to expect. But it really only hit us when we got to there were bodies in the main home, and then there were bodies in an outbuilding. Yeah. And I think the bodies in the outbuilding had been there for quite some time. The stench was unbearable. Yeah. And what they pulled out of that particular room, I don't think pathologists are probably the only people, and forensic professionals are the only people that see that kind of thing. And I'm actually still speechlessly, and you know, you hear these things, but to actually go and report on it is a completely different thing. To be able, that stench, you couldn't help but want to gag. And
I can imagine, because I mean, you sort of, when you say they'd been there for a long time, I mean, any guesstimate? I mean, a month, 2 months, perhaps a year? What are people saying?
So we spoke to the tenant. He was very forthcoming with information, because it's very difficult to build up a timeline around what exactly happened. We know that they were last seen alive the 19th of October, and that gives us an idea that it's possibly soon thereafter that this events could have happened. I know that on Wednesday when we were there, it really hit most of us, because you know, when you're reporting and that adrenaline pumping, you're doing what you have to do, and you don't think about the circumstances around you. But when the family members had spoken to us after they had returned from the mortuary, you saw those scenes. They were hysterical naturally. And then having to go back into that room that they had to clean up, and they had to remove the sand, they had to remove the bedding, the bodies weren't there, but it just gave you a sense of, if you were a family member, what your relative had been through. We know that without being too gruesome and graphic, you can imagine the state of those bodies. We know sharp objects were used, and we understand it's head injuries. So you ask yourself the question, what could have motivated someone to do this? But also having to tell the tenant the guy we interviewed.
Yeah.
He had asked a few times, he asked Sibasiso, what is the smell? Why is it getting worse? And he kept saying, it's rats. I'm trying to kill the rats. I don't have the key to the room to open windows. And it
just sounds like it's a very suspicious story.
And it's someone
there's
who
so
had
much.
found these people on Facebook, Leanne. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the next story that we got to look at to make people aware. He allegedly found them on Facebook, wormed his way into the family. He's got various aliases. We understand from Facebook that he has a troubled past, but you can imagine how charming and how convincing he must have been to have told these people that he is a child of one of the deceased relatives, for them to have welcomed him into their home since July this year, living with him, Leanne.
Yeah.
He's got Facebooks with the youngest of children that are deceased now, 2 years old, and with, he's got pictures with all those relatives on his Facebook page.
It's a unbelievable story. When I mean unbelievable, I mean it in the sense of it's almost impossible to believe something like this can happen, but it has happened. I don't want you to go anywhere. We want to just get the news headline bulletin, and we'll wrap this up. We really need to find out more about this guy. Put his photo up. There's a massive search for him. He can't get away with this, and we need to let the public be aware of it. So I'm going to quickly hand over to Sakina for our 7:30 news headlines, and we'll continue the conversation with Gillian.